So Red Bull, very much a polarizing season for them. They started off with the most dominant car in the sports history, continuing its incredible form into 2024. Of course, last season they won untold amount of races, broke so many records with Max Verstappen, and it seemed as though it was going to be the same in 2024. However, when the rules changed, when that car changed from Miami onwards, the playbook was very much different after that, and they were on the back foot, eventually being overtaken by McLaren and Ferrari as well. Red Bull finishing third in the Constructors, Max Verstappen winning the championship comfortably in the drivers, but becoming the first driver since Nelson Piquet back in 1983 to win a drivers championship with the team that finished third overall in the standings. And Piquet, of course, as well, potentially being Verstappen's future father-in-law. Of course, Verstappen being going to become a father later this year, into 2025 as well. So yeah, just some weird trivia with that one. Verstappen was absolutely mesmeric through this season for the most part. I mean, there were flashpoints, there were moments where he looked nervous, a bit out of control. Austria, Hungary, on top of that as well in Mexico as too, and he got punished for a lot of those as well, and rightfully in my opinion. But the thing is with Verstappen is that I think this season has been his best in Formula 1, even more impressive than last season, because I don't want to say it's easy to win the championship in a car that is the best, right? It's not. It's very challenging to win a Formula 1 World Championship, unbelievably so. We've seen how arguably Lando Norris has cracked under the pressure of trying to do that himself, right? But Verstappen this season has outperformed that car on a number of occasions. Now, you might say that the yardstick of Sergio Perez isn't a particularly challenging one, and I would partly agree with that. But overall, I think he's done an incredible job, not only to win the championship, but to win so many races when perhaps his car wasn't the fastest, and to get top 5 finishes when his car wasn't the fastest as well. That's what's won in the championship, being so consistent, getting good points finishes when his car wasn't anything like the best on the grid. That is what got him his 4th World Championship, and for me, the consistency of it, being able to do it so impressively for so long, hanging on when his car was 4th, 3rd fastest for a good chunk of the second half of the season. I think that's his most impressive campaign. So Verstappen, for me, will get a very high grade with this one. Red Bull themselves, they went from winning the Constructors comfortably by the biggest margin in history, winning almost every single race, every race bar one in 2023, to finishing 3rd overall. And it's a very hard one for them to grade, because for me, it's all about how you think about Perez. Do you think that Perez is the reason why Red Bull didn't win the Constructors, or do you think Red Bull is the reason? For me, I think it's a bit of both. So therefore, for me, Perez has absolutely done a terrible job this season. He's been sacked from the team for next season. His contract has been cancelled. He has been paid off effectively to the tune of around $16 million US, which is a huge amount for any team in Formula 1. So that tells you how lowly they are ranking him, and I understand why, because he's been terrible. He's the only guy from in those top 4 teams to not win not only 1 race but 2 races. Everybody else won at least 2 Grand Prix through this season. So Perez, for me, gets an F grade, which isn't a surprise. Verstappen, though, he gets the highest grade of the lot. He gets an A star, an A plus, if you will, if you're watching this over in America, or anybody else that use that particular grade system. But us in the UK, we say A star for the best of the best, and he's been the best of the best. He's been the driver of the season for me. He has to be. Red Bull overall, I was tempted to give them a D. I was thinking of giving them a B. It's such a hard one to grade. So I'm gonna sit on the fence. I'm gonna give them a C, because there were times during this season when, you know, obviously they started incredibly well. They regressed through the rule changes. They struggled to adapt to these changes, but eventually I think the car did recover towards the end of the season, and they should get some credit for that. So I think they get a C overall. I can understand if you want to give them a B. I can understand if you want to give them a D, but I'm going to give them a C. I'm going to go middle of the road with this one, because I think Perez has to take a lot of the blame for them not winning the Constructors. You know, if he was more consistent, even in the earlier parts of the season, winning the odd race here and there, he would have kept his job and he wouldn't have been an F grade. So for me, it's a real mixed bag for Red Bull. The team middle of the road, Verstappen top of the class, Perez bottom of the class. He's in detention. He's kicked out of the school even, because he's not in Formula 1 next year. So let's move on to the top 2.